The rooftop terrace of ArcLumen Tower felt like the top deck of a sinking ship nobody else could see. Fairy lights swayed in the October wind, throwing soft gold across 200 faces that belonged to people who still believed the company's mythology. Champagne flutes caught the city glow like tiny beacons. Laughter rolled in polite waves. I stood near the glass railing, 23 stories above streets that never slept, holding a glass of sparkling water that had gone flat an hour ago. My black dress, simple, sleeveless, chosen because it made me feel armored, suddenly felt too thin against the chill. The DJ cut the music mid-beat. A microphone squealed once, then Victor Langford stepped into the portable spotlight that had been dragged out for exactly this moment. He was 53, going on immortal. Silver at the temples, jaw still sharp enough to cut deals, eyes the pale blue of expensive ice. The kind of man who could say we're a family and make half the room believe it while the other half checked their exit routes. "Good evening," he began, voice smooth as poured cognac. "Tonight we honor the people who make ArcLumen more than a company. We honor the ones who turn impossible into delivered." Applause started before he finished the sentence, conditioned reflex. He waited for it to crest, then fall just enough. "And no one," he said, turning slowly until the light found me, "has turned impossible into delivered quite like Elena Reyes." Heads swiveled. Smiles bloomed in my direction like spotlights. My pulse kicked hard against my ribs. Risk analytics lead. Model architect. The woman who rebuilt our entire counterparty exposure engine under the new Basel IV amendments, 3 months ahead of schedule. She didn't just meet stretch goals. She redefined what stretch even means. More applause. Someone near the bar actually hooped. Victor raised his glass higher. For that extraordinary contribution, Elena has earned a performance bonus of $42,000. Well deserved. Truly. The terrace erupted. Clapping hands. Whistles. A few people even shouted speech. Speech, like we were at a wedding instead of a corporate ritual. I felt the sound press against my skin. Every decibel landed like a slap. Because that $42,000? It existed only in the slide deck Victor was reading from. Not in my March paycheck. Not in April. Not in the deferred comp statement that arrived in May looking suspiciously clean. Not after the 6 emails I sent between June and September, each one more formal, more clipped, more carefully BCC'd to my personal Gmail. Not after the one-sentence reply from compensation in July that read, "Under review per leadership directive." Not after I stopped asking altogether in August, because silence had begun to feel safer than begging. Victor's eyes stayed on me. Expectant. Generous. The benevolent king waiting for his subject to curtsy. I set my glass on the white stone ledge. The clink was small, but in the sudden hush that followed his toast it sounded like a gavel. The clapping stuttered and died. I walked forward. Not fast. Not slow. Each heel strike measured, deliberate, the way you step when you know the floor might give way any second. People parted without thinking. A semicircle formed around the spotlight like instinct. When I reached Victor, the first stopped 3 feet away, close enough that the microphone would catch every word, far enough that he couldn't touch me without lunging. I looked straight at him. Then past him, at the camera phone one of the marketing associates was holding steady, red recording light bright as a warning. "I never received it," I said. My voice came out calm. Almost gentle. The kind of calm you find at the bottom of a very deep breath you've been holding for 14 months. Victor's smile stayed nailed in place, but something flickered behind his eyes, quick, animal, gone in half a second. "Elena," he said through his teeth, still smiling for the crowd, "this isn't the—" "I never received it," I repeated. Slower. Clearer. Letting each syllable land. "Not 1 cent. I have the offer letter dated November 9, 2023. I have the board-approved FY25 incentive plan signed by you personally on December 14. I have the performance review summary you initialed on February 28 stating exceeds expectations across all metrics, bonus recommendation. Full target payout. I have 12 months of bank statements showing exactly zero incoming transfer from ArcLumen under bonus, discretionary, or any other code. The wind picked up. Fairy lights danced wildly. Victor laughed once, shortly dry, the laugh you use when the punchline is supposed to be you're overreacting. A clerical oversight, he said, turning halfway toward the crowd as if inviting them to share the joke. These things happen in a fast-moving organization. We'll correct it Monday morning. Tonight is about celebration, not paperwork. I tilted my head. You toasted $42,000 of my money in front of the entire leadership team, half the board observers, 3 journalists from Techrastinate, and 200 people holding phones. You made my name a prop. So I think tonight is exactly about paperwork. I reached into the small clutch I'd carried all evening, not for lipstick or mints, but for the one thing I'd known I might need. My phone. I unlocked it without looking down. The email had been sitting in drafts since Labor Day weekend. Subject line, Formal Notice, Section 8.2 Independent Oversight Audit, Material Breach of Incentive Commitment. I'd written it at 3 a.m. on my kitchen floor, still wearing yesterday's clothes. After the 5th unanswered email had turned into a panic attack I refused to let win. I hit send. The whoosh sound was almost inaudible, but Victor's phone buzzed in his jacket pocket at the exact same second. Then the CFO's. Then legal's. A tiny chain reaction of vibrations that traveled through the crowd like static electricity. Victor pulled his phone out, glanced at the screen. The color slid from his face in one smooth motion, the way paint runs when you pour water over it. He looked back at me. Really looked. For the first time all night he wasn't performing. You can't. He started. I already did. My voice stayed level. The third-party firm, Harrington and Leeds, was CC'd on the invocation. They were retained under the original 8.2 clause I helped draft in 2021, back when you still needed people like me to believe the company would honor its promises. Full forensic scope. Executive bonus pool allocation, discretionary spend above $50,000, off-cycle adjustments, travel and entertainment over the last 36 months, any shadow accounts tied to leadership compensation. They arrive Wednesday. 9 a.m. They don't need your permission. Someone in the back gasped, small, involuntary. Victor's jaw worked. This is disproportionate. This is personal. We can discuss. You made it public, I said. You raised a glass and said my name and a number that doesn't exist in my life. You turned 14 months of stolen work into your personal highlight reel. So I'm making 14 months of truth public too. I turned away from him then. Faced the crowd. Faces I knew. The senior data scientist who'd cried in my office last spring when her mother got sick and I covered her sprint deadlines for 8 weeks straight. The junior analyst I'd fought to promote when everyone else said she wasn't ready. The product VP who'd once texted me at 2 a.m. to say thank you for saving his Q3 forecast. Some of them looked stunned. Some looked ashamed. A handful, maybe 4 or 5, looked quietly, fiercely glad. I'm not quitting, I said, loud enough that the wind carried it to the edges of the terrace. I love the models. I love the team. I love what we build when we're allowed to build it honestly. But I will not let anyone steal what I earned and then use my name to polish their halo. Not anymore. Victor tried one last time. Elena. Walk with me. We'll go inside. We'll. No one word. Final. I met his eyes again. See you Wednesday, Victor. Bring every receipt you've got. I walked past him. Past the CFO, whose hands were shaking so badly the champagne in his glass sloshed over the rim. Past the head of HR, who wouldn't meet anyone's gaze. Past the marketing associate still filming, mouth open, red light steady. The elevator bank was 30 yards away. Every step felt longer than the last, like gravity had doubled. No one spoke. No music restarted. Only wind and the soft metallic clatter of the fairy lights. I pressed the down button. The doors opened immediately, as if the building itself had been waiting. I stepped inside. Turned. Just before the doors closed, I saw Victor still standing in the spotlight, phone clutched like a lifeline, face the color of old paper. The car dropped. 23 floors. My knees buckled halfway down. I caught myself against the mirrored wall, forehead pressed to cool glass. My hands shook so violently I had to fist them. Not fear. Not triumph. Something in between, something raw and molten and alive. 14 months of swallowing silence had just detonated in front of everyone who mattered. By the time the elevator reached the lobby, my phone was already vibrating. First message from the head of internal audit, who'd been quietly copied on everything for months. They're scrambling. Board secretary just called an emergency telephonic for tomorrow 7 a.m. Second, from my old mentor, now retired but still on the alumni Slack, saw the clip. Proud of you, kid. They never saw it coming. Third, from the junior analyst I'd fought for, I'm crying in the bathroom. Thank you for showing us we can fight back. I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. The lobby was quiet. Marble and low lighting and the faint smell of rain that had fallen earlier. Outside, the city kept moving, cars, horns, neon, life that didn't pause for corporate meltdowns. I stepped through the revolving door. Cold air hit my face like a slap that finally felt honest. I didn't look back up at the rooftop. I didn't need to.